Morning, my name is Chaim Eckstein from the J Wealth Book Club, and I'm so happy to welcome today with me my good friend and mentor, Steve Lowell, who is the author of the best-selling book, Deep Thought Strategy: How to Go from Obscurity to Success, Influence, Impact, and Wealth. And I know for sure, Steve, you had a big impact in my business and my life to help me get there. So I'm happy to welcome you. Welcome. Good morning.
Well, good morning, and thank you for inviting me. It's always a privilege and an honor for me to get online with my good friends and people of influence and people I respect, such as you. And by the way, congratulations on the enormity of your success with the J Wealth Book Club and the J Wealth Club and all the other things you've got going on. You have just really taken off, and it's so exciting to watch.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy that you had such a big influence on the J Wealth Book Club, which I believe over the years, thousands of people are going to benefit greatly from it. So I think I owe you a big congratulations as well. For today, I want to focus on your book, on Deep Thought Strategy. We're going to focus on you, Steve, why you wrote this book, what influenced you to write this book, and what do you want people to take out of this book?
Well, a lot of questions in there. So, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, why did I write the book? And, it's kind of interesting because I don't really enjoy writing that much. This is my second book, and I'm starting on a third now. And it's interesting because I don't actually enjoy writing that much. But this particular book it really meant a lot, because what had happened was, one of the main concepts in the book is about the Repumeter. And I've been doing the Repumeter work all over the world now, and it gets a lot of attention. And people were asking me, when are you writing the book? And I had no intentions of writing a book about it. But people kept asking me, when are you going to write the book? And for the last 3-4 years, people have just been really asking, where's the book? Where's the book? And so I thought, well, I better write the book. But really, I can explain the primary concept of the Repumeter in a few minutes. And so where am I going to get all the content for a book? But then what I thought was, there's a lot of good information with all the clients that I work with when I help them develop their own systems of what we call expert insights, which of course is the foundation of the book. And when I started writing, I started thinking about all the different people that I've been working with and helping them come up with their own versions of expert insights. And expert insights is, it's that wisdom or knowledge that comes from within you that only you can claim ownership of. And that's kind of what the foundation of the book is about. And so when I started writing the book, the process that I go through kind of revealed itself. I wasn't really aware of how much work actually goes into developing a person's expert insights, this piece of wisdom that is unique to them. And as I was writing the book, it just started to emerge. And I would go, wow, yeah, that's right. I forgot that we do that. And I forgot that we do that. And as I was writing the book, that's when the title actually came to me, Deep Thought Strategy, because that's what it actually takes to create all of the content that's in the book, all of the models and all of the wisdom and the information and all those things. And so I wrote it because people were asking for it. And so I thought, well, maybe a couple of people will buy the book. And then when we launched it, it went to number 1 in 4 different countries, within an hour. And so that was very exciting. And it's been good because now the processes that we go through to arrive at this piece called Expert Insights, which you and I will talk about more deeply, when it describes the process of going through how we arrive at that, now it's documented and people can actually get into that book and follow along for themselves and be able to get really great outcomes from it. So the answer, why did I write the book? It's because people were asking for it. And so I wrote the book. And but it was a very exciting experience, and we're very, very happy to have it turn out the way that it did.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations for that, Steve. I want to ask you something about the content in the book. I understand what you're saying, that you thought it only takes a few minutes, and I'm suspecting that the reason that you thought it only takes a few minutes is because you were talking about this subject with the people that you're working constantly with. So these people heard from you all the time about different things, and you assumed that everybody is like this because these are the people that you interact with on a constant basis. But now you take somebody out of the blue, walks by a bookstore, picks up a book, goes to Amazon, buys a book, and they have to come into your world. It's not so easy as the person that you were working with for a while already. And that's why when you have to get down to the basics, maybe it's a little bit more challenging, and you do have to come up with more content to give us the underlying foundation of the Repumeter and the expert insights and the deep thought strategies, etc. I give you an example, Steve. When I started focusing on this book, to choose this book as the first book for the Jay Well Book Club, I read the book. I had some people in my office read the book, and I asked them for their feedback. And the feedback I got from one of my assistants was, and I thought that's very interesting to talk about, and the feedback was, Steve talks about very important stuff in the book, but I think that it's a more an advanced concept for some people who are already in business, they already succeed in business, they want to get to the next level, and they want to know how to communicate the message to get to the next level. I think that's what the book is for. And one of my assistants challenged me, do you think, Chaim, that this book is going to benefit people who are starting out in business, or they don't have a clear structure on where they want to go, or not? And I told her, I think it will, because sometimes the reason that you're not succeeding, the reason you're not getting to the next level is because you need to have a good message. You need to massage your message. What are you selling? What service do you offer? And I would like you to elaborate on that, Steve. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? What do you have to say on that?
That is such an interesting point, because I have not been aware of that point before. I hadn't considered that, but it's such a good insight. So let's talk about that for a second, because I think that your assistant has a valid observation there, and based on everything you've said. So what you said a minute ago was that, you know, my context of it comes from people that I've been working with, and they have a certain level of understanding of the foundation and the framework, and so the book bridges on that. And so you're right, and I was not conscious of this until now. It's such a fascinating awareness. The book assumes that you have some consciousness and awareness of your business. It assumes that, it doesn't assume a certain level of success, but it does assume a certain level of clarity and a certain level of business acumen as it relates to your business. And I can see that now. I can see where it builds at an advanced level on those things. So I think that your assistant's point is very well taken. And make sure, is it a he or a
she?
Or a she? It's a
she.
Is she? Make sure and thank her for that on my
I'll make sure she watches the video.
That's great. That's a brilliant awareness. So there is that. I think she is correct. And now I'm thinking maybe I need to write a more elementary book as a precursor to it. But having said that, let me come back to what you said, because I also think you're correct. And here's why. I think that somebody who is starting in business, somebody who is just sort of getting the ideas and just sort of coming out of the, out of the beginning stages, I think the book would give them clarity on what's required. I think it gives them a longer term overview of what they have to achieve in order to begin getting momentum. And so I think if somebody who is starting in business were to read the book, I believe that they would probably think to themselves, wow, I need to learn some more things. And so it would encourage them, I think, to get more clarity on their direction, to pick a lane, to get more clarity on how they speak about themselves, to better understand their client's world, to better understand how to position themselves as a problem solver instead of a solution seller. And so if it changes that mindset, even at the elementary stages of business, I think that positions them better going forward than having to go through all the struggles that I went through, and I'm sure you went through when we started our business, not knowing those things. That's a beautiful awareness. I love it. And that simple awareness that you just shared with me just made this whole interview of tremendous value to me, because I've learned something new today about my own book. So that's great.
Okay, so basically, if I understand correctly, Steve, this book, for some people who are at a certain level in business, it's going to give them what they need to get to the next level.
Right.
For some people, it's going to give them the right mindset, where they need to focus in the long term and slowly, gradually get step by step to that point based on the underlying foundation that you are discussing in the book. Now, we talked about the expert insights, which is an amazing idea because it creates another oneness. It creates somebody who's going to become the one in a certain industry, in a certain topic, in a certain strategy, service that he or she is going to do. So let's get back. I understand. Let's not focus on the successful person yet. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on the beginner. I have an idea. I want to succeed. I know where I'm going, or I don't know where I'm going. I want to know where I'm going. I'm so confused, so much marketing, so much media, so much competition. Why should somebody work with me versus working with the competition? And here comes Steve Lowell in his book telling me that I am the person who can create something that he calls expert insights. I'm going to be the expert. All the competitors who are making millions of dollars already, maybe some of the competitors who are very successful in the field that I'm going into, you're claiming that I have what it takes to become in something the number one over all my competitors. Hard to believe. Tell me, why do you think it's possible? Why do you think for somebody like me as a beginner, or I'm going through the mind of the reader who's beginning something, longing for success, hoping for success, hoping to become some significant player in a certain industry, why do you think that it's possible for me to become the number one and have something that I can claim as expert insights over everybody else?
Okay, so there are some prerequisites to all of this that I believe absolutely have to be in place. So it starts with this. First of all, you need to be legitimately good at what you do, because none of the concepts in the book are going to be truly effective, unless these conditions exist. So number one, I think it's very important that a reader of the book has some foundational principles. Number one is you need to be a good person. You need to have good intentions, because the principles in the book are not going to be valid for somebody who has, questionable intentions, somebody who wants to convince somebody to do something immoral or to sell something illegal, or those, in those lines. So being a good person with good, productive, real life business intentions is number one. And part of that means you're good at what you do, and you do what you say you can do, and you give your clients valid quality, valid service, and you help them get valid outcomes. And so that's number one. With that foundation in place, here's number two. Number two is that you don't have to actually be different or even better than your competitors, the big names, the rich ones, the ones that have made all of the success. You don't actually have to be that different or even that much better or better at all, but you do have to appear to be different. And that's how you stand out. And so you appear to be different by doing what's in the book. And in the book, I share a concept of 3 things to appear to be different. Well, number one is, you appear to be different by changing the language that you use about yourself. And the book is about that. How do you position with expert insights? So change the language that you use, and then craft a message that people can repeat easily. And so that's step number 2 is to appear to be different. There's that. Step number 3 is to stop focusing on what you sell and start focusing on the problem you solve. And so what happens here is you need to know your audience's world and know their condition better than they do, or from a different perspective than they do. And so what happens now is when you can position yourself as a problem solver instead of a solution merchant, you no longer compete with the big names that have already reached success, because they are now selling their solutions. And most of the big names that have already achieved massive success, they have some celebrity status, they've got millions of dollars for marketing, they have years and years of experience, and they've got a following, and they've got all of that. But that doesn't mean that they own that space. You can take that space, or you can live in that space if you become known for solving a specific problem, solving it well. So if we take the first 3 principles, right? The first one, be a good person with good intentions and legitimate business skill, legitimate offering. Number 2, know how to position yourself by changing the language that you use, appear to be different. And number 3 so far is to focus on the problem that you solve instead of the solution that you sell. Those three things alone are going to help you. And then number 5 is learn how to use circles of influence or centers of influence. And in the book, I talk about that. There's a difference between a circle of connection and a circle of influence. So the way I define the difference is this: a circle of influence is, this is the population within which I can catalyze action as it relates to my business. So you, for example, Chaim, are part of my circle of influence. We're doing this interview because of some work that I did that's affected you. You and I have worked together different ways over the years because the work that I do has a positive effect on you. So you become a circle of influence for me. But I've got 5,000 Facebook friends. None of them, not none of them, but most of them are not circles of influence. That's my circle of connection. So this step is about understanding the difference between who are you connected to and who is an influencer for you. That's the next step, is understanding how to leverage circles of influence. And then the final step that I would say with this is really about knowing how to connect with the leaders in your industry. It's not just about using circles of influence and understanding circles of influence. It's being able to identify those influencers who are top influencers in your world and learning how to leverage their influence. And so it all works backwards. So let me build it out for you this way. You find the high level influencers in your world. And so that would be step number 5. Step number 4 is you make them part of your circle of influence by helping them do certain things, helping them get outstanding results, helping them helping them build their circle of influence. Number 4 is you do that by changing the way you are perceived, making yourselves appear to be different by the way you speak. Back to number 2, and that is, make sure that you know what you sell, and make sure that you have a legitimate product and a legitimate service, and that would take you back to number 1. And so all of the steps kind of work together, front and back. But it starts with being a good person, with legitimate business offerings, with a legitimate desired outcome, and being able to do what you say you can do, and then building it up from there.
Steve, it's beautiful, wonderful. I love it. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not interesting for you if you didn't make a decision you want to reach a certain level. If you made a decision you want to reach a certain level, I can tell you it's definitely worthwhile the work, and it's not easy. You have to put in the work. But what I'm thinking to myself is, this is not only for business. This is for anything in life you want to accomplish. Forget about business. Let's say that you're retired. You want your children to do something, to behave a certain way. You want your wife to give you something or to do something that you want her to do. Your husband, your friends, your community, it doesn't really matter. Anything. If you want to accomplish something big, it's worthwhile working on communication skills. We're all salespeople. If you want your children to behave a certain way, you want to sell them something. You want them to buy into the way that you want them to think. So you're selling. So you need to have good, amazing communication skills. And what I heard you saying is that it all starts with thinking about the other person, thinking about the benefits, the solution. What do you want the other person to accomplish? What do you want him or her to get? But the other thing that you leveraged on that I like very much is about you have a limited community, you have a limited circle, you have a limited following. You can reach out to others who have a bigger following and that's a big word in this conversation, I think. Tell me if I'm correct. If you can zoom in on what the other person wants to accomplish, you can zoom in on their problems, on their challenges, and how you can bring a solution to their challenges, then they're going to open up to you and they're going to want to speak to you and they're going to let you into their world. Am I correct with that assumption?
Yeah, you are totally correct with that assumption. And there's a bit of a twist in there that I want to add, okay? Because the first part is you are correct. It's about helping them get something they want. The second part of it is this. It's about helping them understand that they have a need or a problem or an issue that they never knew they had. And that's when it becomes powerful. So it's like when a child thinks, a teenager thinks they want to go to a party. And in their mind, they're saying, I want to go to that party. I want to go to that party. I want to go to that party. But what they really want deep down is recognition. and that's why they want to go to the party. So if you can show that person that going to the party is not going to get them the recognition they truly want, and here's how you get the recognition, then what you're doing is you're redirecting them from what they think they want to what they actually want. And it's not a manipulation, because all you're doing is revealing to them something, and it makes them go, that's it. You're right. That's what I want. And when you have the ability to do that, that's how you really truly influence people, and that's how you become the one. It's not just by having another solution, or making another suggestion, or being able to convince, or being able to, to coerce somebody, or being a good speaker, smooth talker. It's not about all of those things. It's about helping people get clarity on their condition. So if you can show people a way that they can get clarity on what's really important to them, that's where you become the one. While everybody else is trying to convince them, you're giving them clarity. And you're right that you could apply this in any part of life, whether it's business, personal, whether it's with your kids, your spouse, your partners, your friends, whatever it is. You help people get clarity on what they want, and that's how you stand out. And that means this. That means, Chaim, that you need to know that person's world better than they do. You need to know their condition better than they do. That's why the book is called Deep Thought Strategy. So I want to talk to you about this for a second, because it brings up a major topic in the book. A major topic in the book is the difference between thinking big and thinking deep. And this is where so many people struggle, business or not. A lot of us think big. We have big goals. Maybe they're big business goals. Maybe they're big personal goals. Maybe they're big family goals, financial goals, whatever, social goals, political goals, whatever they are. We've been taught to think big and think bigger and think bigger. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that philosophy, what my experience has found, and maybe yours has too, is that thinking big is only of value if I first think deep. And that is, I need to understand the world in which I'm thinking big. I need to understand the world in which I'm trying to have some influence. So if I want to have big goals for my children, or for my family, or for my business, or for myself, those big goals take us into a different part of the world, different part of existence. And we need to understand that existence before we step into it. And so for me, that's where the deep thought strategy comes in. So you mentioned about it, you want your kids to behave a certain way, or you're looking for some results from your spouse, husband, wife, or whatever. I believe that you need to understand where you're taking them first, and where you need to understand that space so well that you can provide clarity for them, so that they know the space that they're stepping into, and they go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I hadn't thought about that before. And it's that clarity, it's that gift of clarity that positions you as being the one. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. But you know what I'm thinking now as you talk about this, something amazing came to my mind. And I'm going to take you back to a conversation you and I had a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that. When I attended one of your events about professional speaking, and I watched you work with people on the stage and sickening them until they brought out their message well. I had big rachmanas, big mercy on these people, seeing how much you tortured them. But, it only came from a good place, because this is how you elevated them to a new level. And I saw in front of my eyes how these people evolved over time. And it was amazing to watch it. But I remember one time I came over to you and I told you, Steve, don't you feel bad to make people become something that they are not? And you told me, Chaim, I'm not making people become something that they are not. I'm helping people bring out what they already have inside of them, what they already want. I help them become who they are. And when you told me now, you explained so well now about the one that you're mentioning in the book, I thought to myself, it's not like you are helping people do something to become the one. They are already the one. These people have something unique to bring to the world, that the world will benefit so much that only they can provide that value. And your job here in the book is not to show them how to become something they're not, but just to show them how to identify who they are already and how they are already the one, and that the world is just waiting for them to let the world know about the one thing that you have to bring value that nobody else has.
Yeah, your analogy is perfect, because you're right. When I'm coaching people to speak, it's oftentimes a difficult exercise because they get frustrated, they get tired, and so what's happening is I see something in there and I want it revealed. So I'm not trying to change who they are, I'm trying to reveal who they are. And you're right, the same analogy applies with the concept of expert insights and what's in the book, the Deep Thought Strategy. It's not about changing what you do, it's about revealing what you're capable of. And I like what you're saying too about, everybody has that unique piece of wisdom inside of them. And I call that expert insights. And my job with the book and with the work that I do is to find it. It's in there somewhere, and it's hidden by belief systems, and it's hidden by training and experience and knowledge and ideas and creativity, and it's hidden by failures, and it's hidden by all kinds of things. So we have to sift through all those beliefs, all the failures, all the wisdom, knowledge, everything you think you have, everything you think you know, everything that's in there, and find that one little thing that we call expert insights. Then we bring it out, we reveal it, and we craft it, and we show you how to bring it to the world. And that's what makes you the one. So you're right. It's not about changing, it's about revealing. And I love your analogy because you're bang on.
And what I like about it is because now we have such a powerful message for the listener and for the reader, for the member of the Jay Wealth Book Club. It's not a message about I want you to help you become something, because then I can make a decision. Should I or should I not? Do I want to become something else than I am now? I don't know if I want. Not everybody will sign up for that. But when I ask you a question, a different question, do you want me to show you who you are? Mm-hmm. Do you want me to show you who you really are? Or you want to keep it buried inside of you and not let the world benefit from it, not let you benefit to the maximum benefit that you can gain from it, your family? That's a totally different conversation. It's about you. You, should you be you or should you not be you? Like maybe 4 years already, you're not you, as all of us are guilty of not being 100% who we are. I would be very happy on the last day of my life, looking back, I would be 70% who I am. I would be very happy. Mm-hmm. Still a lot more than, probably 70% more than most people.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah, I love that angle. Yeah, you're exactly right. And so I'm glad that when you take, you read my book and you come and we work together in the courses, that you get that depth of awareness out of it, because that speaks to who you are. Because you see, you're somebody who looks deeper. You're a deep thinker. That's why I think you relate to the whole deep thought strategy concept, because you are a very, very deep thinker. And the way you think is about revealing. It's not about, trying to change or manipulate or alter. You like to reveal, just like I do. And I think that's why we're sort of kindred spirits in this philosophy. And that's exactly what the Jay Wealth Club and the Jay Wealth Book Club is designed to do. It's not necessarily about piling all kinds of information on people and hoping they like some of it. It's about giving them opportunities to reveal the greatness that already exists within them. And there's various catalysts to make that happen. And sometimes a catalyst can be a single sentence in a book. You could read 1,000 books, and at that moment in time, a single sentence might pop out at you, and the conditions are right, and in that second, that's exactly what your spirit needed to hear in order to reveal something great. And this is what we try to do as experts in our field, is we're always trying to reveal the greatness in others.
Right. Okay, let me take a few minutes to talk about the thinking big that you brought up. And I'm very passionate about it because I got sick and tired. A few years ago, I think 7 or 8 years ago, I started getting into this thinking big idea, the law of attraction, things like that. I read a lot of books, Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. I had mentors like Bob Proctor, who wrote the foreword for my book. It appeared to me that I don't want to put a number because I didn't do a legitimate survey on that, but my rough idea, and I'm pretty good with numbers, was that 80 to 85% of the people who spend money and go to these kind of people, these kind of seminars, don't accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. All they accomplish is more debt, more expenses, more debt. And then they say, you see, I told you, sometimes all they need is another excuse why it can't happen, why it can't happen for them. You see, I told you it's baloney. I told you I'm not going to accomplish anything. They don't get it that it's true. Although it's true that the law of attraction, you need to attract good, you need to have good vibration, you need to have good energy, you need to have a lot of faith. You need to believe in God. Know that God created you with everything you need to succeed. But you can't just sit down and say, I believe, I know that I'm going to think big, and all of a sudden things are going to happen like you see in the movie The Secret. Everything starts showing up at your doorsteps. I thought about a lot of things I wanted to attract. I opened my door every day. I didn't see it. So a lot of people think that's the way that it's going to work. And then when it doesn't work, they get very disappointed. And I watched very, very closely the people who do accomplish something versus the people who do not accomplish. And I saw it boils down to activity. Thinking big combined with good activity, good action, good goals based on what their activity should be, that's the game changer. So when you think big, you should know exactly what you need to do every day, every week, every month, whatever it is, in order to accomplish that. And then your thinking big should drive you to do the activities necessary. And then you have the perfect ingredient for accomplishing everything like you describe it in the deep thought strategy.
Yeah, and you know, my experience with thinking big and the universal laws and the law of attraction is exactly the same as yours. But I want to add to what you're saying, because what you're saying, I believe 100%. And I'm not claiming to be a law of attraction specialist. There are, you know, reams of people who know a whole lot more about it than I do. But I opened my door those times too, and the things weren't on my doorstep, right? But here's what I found. I think you're correct. Of course, the law of attraction, universal laws, and the faith, and all those things are foundational. And then there's the activity, the action, of course, and that's a big thing that a lot of people are missing. But for me, it's even deeper than that, because I was active. I did work. I was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I was taking massive action on everything I can think of. But here's what I know now is I was taking the wrong actions. So it's not just about taking action. It's about taking the right actions. And to me, that's the deep thought piece. That's what's missing, because how do you know what the right actions are? And, you know, you and I did an interview about this not long ago, where we talked about the difference between goals and desired outcomes. And one of the differences between goals and desired outcomes is there's a piece in the middle over which we have no control. Between now and the time we set our goals, when we go through that path, there are things that require other people to make decisions along that path. That's what we have no control over. That's where deep thought strategy becomes in, because this is where we need to influence the other people along the way who are going to affect our outcome, but our outcome relies on their decisions. This means that we have to understand their world, and these are the people for whom we need to be the one. And because we need to bring them on our side, we need to have them influence for us, we need to be able to help them, we need to be able to reveal who they really are. So all the people that we experience on our path, those are the people for whom we need to become the one. Maybe they're clients, maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe it's colleagues, maybe it's opponents, who knows who it is. But this is the deep thought strategy, is about helping you reveal the expert insights that come within you, that demonstrate that you know more about their world or their condition than they do. That positions you in their mind as the one. That helps you curate their influence in whatever way it's needed. And now momentum starts. And now the actions that you're taking are directed, they're influenced by the right people, they include the right people. Now the universal laws can say to you, okay, you get it now. Here's everything you need. Because I believe what happened to me was the universal laws were trying to help me, but I was doing all the wrong actions. I was pushing everything away, and they keep trying to help, and I keep pushing it away because I wouldn't recognize the opportunities. I wouldn't get influence from the right people. I wouldn't take the correct actions in the correct order at the correct time to the correct magnitude. I was busy, I was in action, but I wasn't getting anywhere until I started the deep thinking and took the deep thinking as a foundation for the big thinking, and be able to put all the pieces in between together, which is the expert insights, getting the influencers, the deep thought strategy, and then the activities. So there's a lot more to it than just sitting in your chair and vibrating and hoping that that Amazon is going to deliver everything that you've ordered in your mind, you know.
And you know, you brought up an interesting thing also. I want to spend like 30 seconds on that, which is important, very important, especially if you're still in the beginning of your journey. And that is to understand that to become the one does not mean that you have to become the one for everybody.
Right, exactly right.
So you have to become the one for the people that you want to become the one for. And the better you can clarify that, the better you can zoom in into that, the better it's going to be for you.
Absolutely. I would rather be positioned as the one for 10 people who can help me achieve my desired outcomes. I would rather that than be the one for everybody on earth, none of whom can help me achieve my outcomes. There's a difference between fame and influence, and I don't really care about being the one to be famous. I care more about being the one within the population that can help me take my gifts and have a positive effect on the world.
Right, and I'll give you a good, an interesting thing that I heard from Grant Cardone. A lot of people know Grant Cardone, and he said when he started posting a lot on Facebook and social media, a lot of people told him, "You're posting too much. People are gonna leave you. Your friends are gonna leave you." And then he replied to, like, "Why do I need a friends if they leave me when I post? So they should leave me." So he says that he started posting and everybody left him. And that was the best thing that ever happened to him, because then a new tribe emerged of people who want to listen and want to learn from him as much as possible. The same thing with me, and I'm sure you had the same experience. When I started giving my information and my value to the world, a lot of people left me. And that's a good thing. I have situations where I started with like 5,000-6,000 people, and then I was left with about 1,000 people. It was much better, because 5,000 people that were just sitting like dummies there, and I can't speak to them, they're not speaking to me. What's the benefit of being together to begin with? Versus 1,000 people that listen to me and want to learn from me and want to buy my services, want to sign up for whatever I have to say. That's what I'm looking for, and that's where I want to become the one. And this is probably what you mean when you talk about the one.
Absolutely.
I think I would do a big disservice for the listeners to this interview if we don't finish by asking you if there is one thing, only one thing, that the listener or the reader of the book can take out of this book or can take out of engaging with you. What do you want that to be?
I think the most important thing would be this. Shift your mindset from focusing on your offerings, your gifts, and your solutions. Shift your mindset to focusing on what is the problem that you solve. How can you be of value to others? How can you benefit them? How can you help them get clarity on their problems? Spend less time studying your craft and more time studying your people, and then they'll come together. I think that would be the most important point.
Okay, and the last thing I want to ask you is, if people want to learn more about what you have to offer, they want to engage with you more on other services that you provide, what is the best way that people can engage with you?
Yeah, just go to my website, www.stevelowell.com. That's Lowell, stevelowell.com. Everything is there, and it's easy to contact me through there. And so any questions that your listeners may have, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So that would be the easiest way.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve. I enjoyed every minute of it and have a lot of success going forward.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for having me. Such a privilege, and good luck with the J-Wealth Book Club and the J-Wealth Club. And I just, again, congratulations on the enormity of your success. You are really doing great things for a lot of people in this world.
Thank you.